recording.
Keep generating paper.
Meeting, please come to order.
We'll do it after.
Barbara, please call the roll.
We have Commissioners Berard, Fleming, Funderburk, Levine, and Noonan present.
Thank you. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. I have no opening remarks, but a couple of administrative items. I'm going to move that we defer item 13, and right after public comment, I'm going to suggest that we go into closed session to deal with a time-urgent matter, and then we will go to the remainder of the agenda. So first, let me move that we defer item 13. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
It's deferred. Mr. Interim General Manager, do you have a report or briefing?
I have nothing to report unless you have any particular questions for me.
We have lots of questions for you, but we'll hold them.
Okay.
Comments from commissioners on agendized items or requests from commissioners relating to departmental operations.
I do. Mr. Adams, given our brief conversation earlier this morning, I think it'd be very helpful to have the memo that you plan to prepare regarding PVC and HDPE piping provided to the entire board. I think it's important to understand the difficulties that we're having at Roscoe with the usage of that pipe, as well as information that you gathered in Anaheim about the potential usages for PVC and HDPE piping.
Be happy to do that. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Yes, I did, and I know Mr. Adams and Mr. Wright are probably aware of this, but it came to my attention through the city's watchdog, he calls himself, that development projects were being not taking into account the proper usage of water and power. I think that I want to make sure that that concern is heard. And I understand that you and Mr. Wright are going to be preparing something for the board in July to brief us and update us on that. And I'd like to make sure that we're getting the water and power estimates correct on these projects and understand a little bit more about how this takes place. I don't know if that involves communication with the planning department or whomever, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention, make sure that it's heard, and get some follow-up sometime in July.
Okay. So if I heard correctly, we'll prepare a report on the process by which people apply for new water and power services, especially like these large water supply assessments. Kind of was a question during time of drought, how new projects can be approved and how that water is accounted for and how it fits within the overall planning for us. So we'll prepare a report on what that process is, so you can understand where the checks and balances lie and what our role is in the overall scheme of the planning for the city.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm particularly concerned if there are projects that are being approved that the estimates are somehow challengeable in some other way or another. If they are, that I think that we should have, I'd like to have some idea as to how the water estimates in particular are done particularly with the water conservation and drought measures that are being undertaken.
Absolutely.
Other comments or questions? We move to public comment. Barbara, I understand there's one speaker card.
Yes.
Would you call the speaker?
The speaker is Craig Douche.
I'm in back here. Where should I
Come up to the lectern in the front.
What do I do? Here?
Yes. Speak into the mic.
Yes.
My name is Craig Deutsche. I live in West Los Angeles. Of course, I receive water through the DWP, and I'm on the electric grid, although I also have solar panels on my roof. I'd like to consider myself a responsible citizen of the city. I'm also a frequent visitor to a number of national parks, monuments, and preserves here in California and the Southwest. My reason for attending today is in regard to the Solar Mountain Solar Project, which was proposed immediately north of the Mojave National Preserve. The project has been opposed by a coalition of environmental groups, advisory committees, and governmental agencies. A few days ago, you, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, canceled your agreement to purchase power from this remote solar project. I want to commend you for this, and am particularly appreciative of your concern for the environmental deficits that the project would create. I believe you've taken a major step in protecting what's valuable to all citizens in California. In addition to my personal thanks, I have with me 300 letters from others that were collected by the National Parks Conservation Association, and the letters applaud your action and wish to express their appreciation also. So I and we urge you to continue your concern for environmental consequences of your decision, and we hope you will follow through on your stated intention to find and use local and distributed energy sources. I would like to have these delivered to the board chairman, Mel Levine. Shall I?
Okay.
Or shall I?
Hand them that.
You can hand them to the officer.
Okay. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fred, do you have items you want to do now?
One, very briefly, I would like to comment on item 12, which is on the potential consent agenda at that time.
Thank you. Okay, counsel?
Yes, sir. The board shall report any action taken in closed session and the vote abstention of every member present thereon in accordance with Section 54, 957.1 of the California Government Code.
Thank you. We'll recess into closed session.
I have one on this day.
Oh, that's what I thought. Recording? Ready? Okay, the meeting will please come to order again. We are on, well, before we go to the consent agenda, we have an acknowledgement of participants of the 2014 LA Small Business Academy. Commissioner Funderburk.
Yes. Last year, I was asked by Public Works Commissioners Monica Rodriguez and Mike Davis to participate and support DWP's participation in the USC Small Business Academy. And it was held at USC. USC didn't, USC provided space, but they weren't involved. But Gwen Williams and her team and staff were just incredibly helpful in getting this off the ground. There were 12 sessions. I think our own Nancy Sutley gave one of the sessions. It was there were about 30 or 40 small businesses that signed up for this, and it was an enormous commitment for businesses that otherwise wouldn't have the time to do this. So at the graduation of this, I said that I wanted to recognize every quarter some of the Academy small business graduates who completed the entire course, and make sure that our prime contractors that we do a lot of work with see these people, they're visible to these people. We can't say to do business with these people, but these are people who invested the time to do the good work of understanding what best practices are, understanding what it's like to be contracting and really support their business. So I'd like to thank Gwen Williams and her staff for putting this together. And specifically, I want to recognize the following. Rod Edison, is that right? From Max Out. Mr. Edison, if you could just stay standing up. Mr. Edison's located in City of Industry, and he's a general engineering contractor. Fabiola Jacques, she is with the California Testing and Inspections Company, and they provide geotechnical engineering work. The G crew, Armin Menemshian, is that right? Okay. And CWE, Mr. Vic Bapna. Is that it, Gwen? Yes. Okay. So to these people, I'd like to encourage everybody to recognize them, know their names. They put in the time, close to 100 hours of time to attend the classes. It was an enormous commitment for senior management, in some cases CEO personnel, to do this. And I want to thank you, as I told you I would, for coming to this. And we're looking forward to several other rounds of this Small Business Academy over the next several years to bring to light the good work of how we can help at DWP be the economic engine for the city. And you as small business owners are the ones who provide jobs. So you're really the power in the city and the power to the economic revival of the city. So thank you very much. And I can't speak for my fellow commissioners, but I will ask everybody if they want to have any comments on it to go ahead and comment on it. I know Commissioner Noonan probably was on the commission when this was incubating and getting off the ground. And then we can, do one. I'd like to make one final recognition statement. So does anybody have any?
I think you did just speak for all of the commissioners.
Okay, great. So a round of applause by everybody. Thank you for coming. Now I guess you can get back to work, and good luck. Good luck in your futures.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, we will first take the consent, the approval of the minutes of the meeting of June 2nd, where Funderburk, Noonan, Fleming, and I were present. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Second, those in favor?
Aye.
It is approved. We will remove item 12 from the consent calendar because I know there's some comments on item 12. Are there any other items between items 7 and 20 that any commissioners would like removed from the consent calendar?
I have some.
Which ones?
9 and 11, please.
Okay, hold on one second. 9 and 11. Any
Yes.
others?
15 and 16?
Hold on. 15 and 16. Any others? Okay, is there a motion to approve items 7, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14,
Now, you're going to hold
17
12, right?
I'm sorry, not 12. 13 and 14, thank you, Barbara.
13
13 is deferred.
isn't it?
And 13 is deferred. I appreciate these corrections. 14, strike 12 and 13. 14, 17, 18, 19, and 20.
I'll move.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those are approved. So 13 is deferred. And from the consent calendar, we will be hearing items 9, 11, 12, 15, and 16. First one is item 9. Commissioner Broad.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to know the context of this. We're talking about amending the low-income eligibility criteria, but I don't see what it was and what it will be. So I wonder if we could just have a little explanation of that.
Morning.
Hi.
Good morning. This is Sharon Grove, and I'd like to introduce Nancy Walker-Bonella. She's my director in charge of the billing organization. So the department follows the guidance of the California Public Utility Commission, and they revise the criteria on a yearly basis, and this is just adopting that. I don't...
But this doesn't say what it was and what it will be, and was it, I don't see any numbers here.
Okay. You mean what the previous annual gross income amounts were?
Yes.
Okay, great. I mean, we can, I have all that information. I'd be more than happy to supply that to all the commissioners.
It's got gross income here, but it's not what it was. So
Right.
I don't know what it's amended from.
So we can, you want to just read?
Sure.
Read them? Okay.
Okay, so this is based on the number of people in a household. So last year, it was up through June of 2014, it was $22,980 for a household of one. 31,000, and today it is 31,460.
Wait 1 second, please. It says here, maximum gross income 31,860. Are we looking at, am I looking at the, right, the same thing you are?
Great, thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, I apologize. So up through June 30th of 2015, for a household size of one, it was $31,460, and that has been raised to $31,860 for this fiscal year.
So it's $400.
Yes.
Okay.
It was the same for a household of two. For a household size of three, last year was $39,580. This year it is $40,180. For a household size of four, it was $47,700, and this year it goes up to $48,500. For a household size of five, it was $55,820. This year it is $56,820. Last year, for a household size of six, it was $63,940. This year, it is $65,140. For a household size of seven, it was $72,060. This year, it is $73,460. And for a household size of eight, last year it was $80,180. This year it is
$8,780. For each additional person in the household last year, that you could add $8,120. And this year, that figure has gone up to $8,320.
All right, so based on this, it looks like some numbers go up and some go down. There doesn't seem to be any pattern with that.
No, they all went up,
Well,
except that households 1 and household size 2 are the same figures.
yeah, so, well, this time, a household of 1, it's $400 is the difference. In some cases, the numbers go up, I see, but you're following some,
We follow the guidelines.
The guidelines.
By the
yeah, I
California
just don't
Public
see any
Utility
kind of a
Commission.
pattern here, but I just wondered what the background of this was. Okay, so all right, so what we're doing is you're making these as of July 1st?
Right.
For the new
Yes.
fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion? Second, those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Thank you. Item 11, Commissioner Broad.
Yeah, is this Robert Dale Gibson a person? Are
Yes.
we, I don't, what is this?
Yes, he's actually a private individual. He actually, very creative gentleman. We had a lot of ranching issues, cutbacks in water supply, and a lot of folks that were in the Shadow Hills and Salatonga area were concerned about some of the ranches having adequate water. And he actually was able to procure, help us in developing a recycled water service where people can actually buy recycled water at certain connections, not a hardline connection, but he has a water tanker that he's able to go up and then service a lot of ranches with recycled water, which enables him to not have to need potable water for those ranches for dust mitigation and that sort of thing, and livestock irrigation. And so what this basically does is continuing the same contract we have with them now that allows them to pay the current rate. The recycled water rate is a subject of discussion right now as we look at all of our recycled water customers. And if the rate does change for all of our customers, he'll be included in that change as well. But this allows him to continue to take this water. It's been a good service to the community for him to be able to do this because it's gotten a lot of people off of potable water where they do have real water needs.
Oh, it's interesting. Okay. Thank you very much, Marty.
Sorry.
Any other questions or comments on item 11? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Item 12, I believe the ratepayer advocate had something he wanted to say about this, and I don't know if other people do as well.
I did.
Okay, we'll start with you.
Oh, no, the ratepayer advocate can go.
We'll start with him.
We were going to recommend that this move ahead, but that DWP and the Office of Public Accountability Ratepayer Advocate report back with the department on making sure that all appropriate costs were included in the measurement of the benefits of these projects, and that there is a established portfolio standard for the cost of the average project and a maximum cost over which we won't go in dollars per acre foot for these projects.
And I take it this is within your parameters.
Well, the addition is a requirement to report, for us to report back together with the department on establishing standards for the portfolio of projects like these and others.
And Mr. Adams, you have a view on that?
We'd be happy to do that. And actually, it's probably a great idea because there's a lot of projects that deal with stormwater, some from a water supply standpoint, some from what's called MS4, the runoff permit standpoint. And then there's projects that do both. And so we're looking to invest in projects that we believe give us a good payback on the water savings. And I think one thing that's probably missing is information on the projects that we don't think are good to invest in. So we probably having a good report and some standards would be a great idea. And then we can report back on where we're putting the ratepayer money and making sure that everybody understands what we're getting for the investment.
So, Dr. Pickle, do I understand correctly? You're comfortable with this one, but you would like those parameters established? Or?
Yes, and these projects, these aren't exactly shovel-ready projects, so there's some time to get things in place for the review of these and others.
Good. Does anybody object to including that amendment as a part of the motion? Hearing none, it's included. Are there any other comments or questions?
I wanted to thank the Melanie from the I can't remember what your group was. Yeah, I took a tour the past 2 weeks of the Panorama City kind of micro filtration, and I've been doing stormwater more from the water quality end for a few decades, and it's great to see that things are coming to viewing stormwater as an asset and not a liability. And I want to continue to ask, because I keep on asking for this, for as many externalities that can be reasonably included in the equation in the report to Dr. Pickle, that they be included in terms of costing things out. They're enormous. There are all these other greenhouse gas. There are a lot of other ancillary benefits to these projects, I think, that somehow get lost in the balance sheet. But when you look at the per acre foot charge, it somehow makes it look a little bigger. On the one hand. On the other, I want to make sure that people who are watching our budget closely, whom I think you've responded to, Mr. Adams, that they be responded to in terms of making sure that we're paying competitive prices for these projects, but also making sure that the benefits of the bringing the water in basin, it's not a 1 year or 2 year or 5 year projects. These are things that people like Nancy Sutley are working on that are going to impact DWP and the city for the next 100 years. And it makes a big difference to get control and bring our water supply further in basin. So I would just say keep up the work that you're doing on this, but make sure that it can survive a critical eye and a critical analysis financially. At the same time, try to make sure that everything from avoided legal costs or everything are lumped into the analysis, because I think that those are important factors when you look at the benefits of these projects. So.
Absolutely.
The challenge in these projects is there are multiple beneficiaries. And while as a ratepayer advocate, I'm always happy if your Bureau of Sand to pay for their ratepayers.
So noted. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments on this item?
I do have 2 speaker cards for this item.
Oh, okay. Please call them.
Okay, the first speaker is Tony Wilkinson.
Hi, I'm Tony Wilkinson from the Panorama City Neighborhood Council. I'm speaking as an individual. And, of course, I'm not against street-oriented stormwater capture. The Woodman project actually originated by a bunch of people sitting around in Panorama City Neighborhood Council with maps and the river project identifying where it might be. So we're supportive of this whole idea. But I have some severe concerns about costs that you had mentioned. The department says it's going to cost $1,000 per acre foot. That's only with the department's money. With the $15 million from sanitation, it's going to cost $2,000 per acre foot, and that includes zero cost of capital and no operations and maintenance. And as we can see, just from a limited experience with the Woodman Avenue project, O&M is a really significant expense. There's been, theft of high-tech irrigation equipment, conservation-oriented, damage to plants, storm damage to surface features. The department and sanitation have gone after Kaiser Permanente to do maintenance of the surface area and only gotten a 3-year commitment. They've come back to the neighborhood council for multiple thousands of dollars of public money for replacing lost plants. So the real public cost of this is $2,000 per acre foot. And I'm kind of a practical guy. I realize that two of the items that are on this package are part of the Mayor's Great Streets project, and I know that the conservation message and the vegetation element are going to be important to those, and so I would support doing those as demonstration projects like Woodman, but I have some concern about moving forward with all the projects in the package, because I think it may be a much better deal to do things like dig sediment out of Pacoima Dam, capture much more stormwater from the same storm so that we can slowly feed it into the sediment basins during the dry months. So I would urge you to basically bless those two components, but not necessarily bless every project that's in the ceremony.
Excuse me, would you mind if I ask him a question?
No.
Mr. Wilkins, thank you for your, by the way, thank you for your testimony, and I want to thank you for your service. I know that you and other neighborhood council people invest thousands of hours just for, just for the good of the community and the broader community, and not your own interest necessarily either, specifically. So I want to thank you for that. And I also was struck by, when I was in Panorama City, the extent to which the engagement of the community had taken place, to the point where these tiny micro projects by house had developed, and this whole spirit of volunteerism had taken root in that community. And I think it's part of your greater community. And
a lot of thanks goes to Melanie Winters.
And so I think it's interesting how that was used to defray some of the costs that might otherwise have to go into it. And if that can be done at other neighborhood councils or other of these projects, I think that would be encouraged. But I want to cite you, because I think that you're a pioneer, and I know you're respected by many people in the neighborhood council movement for your comment and your questions. I hope we can respond in some meaningful way as well. I'm going to probably defer to Dr. Pickle in terms of the what we have to vote on today, but I would encourage you to keep voicing your concerns.
Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.
And just to add to that, I think it's going to be very helpful what Mr. Adams suggested in kind of highlighting opportunities that we felt were too expensive, and investing in those that are cost effective, and kind of giving us the methodology of why you, who heads water for this department, really chooses certain opportunities over others. That'll be helpful when you present. Thank you.
There's another speaker card?
Yeah, the next speaker is Melanie Winter.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Melanie Winter. I'm the founder and director of the River Project. We're a nonprofit organization that works on watershed management here in Los Angeles. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this. This is important because of the many reasons that the ratepayer advocate and Mr. Wilkinson and Mr. Funderburk have raised, and Mr. Adams. Partnering to share costs across multiple beneficiaries is something the city is learning to do. This is a big step forward. Partnering with sanitation is a logical partner. In future, we can probably also partner with Rec and Parks and other entities who are going to benefit in these projects as well. Figuring out, as the ratepayer advocate has said, how to identify benefits, value them, and allocate costs is something that is central to the One Water effort that's going on right now that engages DWP and sanitation and other city departments. So that's been one of the top priorities of that effort. So perhaps this work can be done in tandem with that effort to benefit this kind of partnership all across departments as we move forward. It's really important to note here that in the contract, sanitation is accepting responsibility for maintenance here. That's a huge change. It's a big thing to take on, and it is a huge change. So Tony's concern is valid, but in this case, we have that one handled. So that's a real comfort. I want to note that the projects that Commissioner Funderburk came out and saw, we have been valuing those projects as well, looking at how much stormwater gets to groundwater, as well as looking at the pollutant remediation of each project. And we're looking towards getting at the conservation numbers, which we're working with conservation here to get, and eventually the flood reduction numbers of these small-scale micro projects. The preliminary numbers that we're getting working with the Stormwater Capture Master Plan models and the EWEP models are phenomenal. And the cost benefit, the cost per acre foot of this small-scale stuff is incredible. But I also want to recognize what Tony said. We need to use all the tools in our toolbox. The big projects with the spreading ground optimization and the dam retrofits, the medium-scale projects like Great Streets and Woodman Avenue, and the small-scale distributed, if we're going to get our objectives in a timely and cost-effective way and spread those ancillary benefits across to the benefit of all your ratepayers. They're interested in quality of life issues as well as reducing their bills and seeing biodiversity and greenhouse gas reductions and participating in this. The small-scale projects allow communities to participate. And I will say also that both DDP and SAN have done a great job of doing community outreach when they're working on the medium-scale projects in communities and getting folks engaged as well. And we've partnered with them on several projects in that regard.
Could you wrap up your remarks, please?
Yes, I will. I was just about to do that. So I think I've pretty much covered it all. It is important that we use the GIS data and the modeling that we have developed in the Stormwater Capture Master Plan, coordinate with the GIS and modeling that's been developed in the EWIPs as we're looking to choose sites these projects and cost-benefit analysis them and coordinate and continue to partner. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this item? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's approved. Thank you. We move to item 15. Commissioner Noonan.
So in reviewing this request, I feel like there's a lot of important information that's missing. When I do the math and your estimated amount that'll cost approximately $2,345,000 to repair these units over 3 years, that works out to spending approximately $10,151 per unit. I think what's missing is that what's the life cycle, first of all, for these units? You reference that this is a single source and that they have a warranty, and you talk about that this is validated by a letter that they wrote on October 14th, but that letter isn't attached. What is the warranty, and why are we spending this kind of money every 3 years on these units? And on top of that, how often are these units replaced?
Well, right now we have an aging equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So on the average, we have of the 231, we have about 200 that's over 14, 15 years old. Mm-hmm. And that's generally where we keep the lifespan at. We have some that are into the 20 years. Mm-hmm. So we are trying to process and buy newer equipment, which would help with that right there. So hopefully that answers your question of why you see that. So with the aging equipment, you can see there's going to be a volatility in repair.
But the average life cycle is 15 years then.
Oh, yeah, on the heavy equipment, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is very expensive, heavy-duty equipment, Caterpillar.
And there's several mentions of working with the sole source entity because of their warranty. What kind of warranty do they offer?
Well, with Caterpillar parts, there's no known aftermarket parts, so we have to go to Caterpillar to get their parts, and they're very sensitive on any part that you use, all the way up to the bolts that are on there. Some of the bolts can be hard and that they're meant to break. Some of them are actually a little bit softer, so they're meant to stress under strain. So we're very careful when it comes to replace any part on the Caterpillar, all the way down to the filters. So there's no known aftermarket, so we have to go to Quinn, Caterpillar, which they're regional, and Caterpillar dictates that Quinn only services these areas that we're all the way from us into the Inyo Canyon. So we're kind of locked into that position. Unfortunately, the city's in the same situation.
But as for the warranty that's referenced?
The warranty, that's on the newer equipment, and I think we have... just looked up. We have about 15 or 16 different pieces that are 14 year 14. So the warranty on those things, I'd have to refer to Fleet Engineering to see exactly, but I think most of them are about 3 years. So the biggest thing is that we have to adhere to the specification of the manufacturer when we're maintaining and repairing these things. That's why this contract is so critical.
Yeah, this helps in that I understand the life cycle now of these units, but I do think when we were talking about spending approximately $10,000 on these units, every 3 years, I would like to be given a copy of the contract, specifically relating to the warranty. So, in the future, I think that'd be helpful to the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments on this item? Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's passed. Item 16, Commissioner Noonan.
Good morning.
Good morning. I think what troubles me most about this request is that we have been represented by Vision Service Plan since 2002, which really makes me curious about the bidding process. I feel that the excuses that were given as for this last year in the bidding process, that one didn't have enough time, the other one had staffing issues. I think it's just very difficult to believe that that has happened year after year since 2002. So I am suspect as to why we continue renewing this contract with this specific vendor. Also, I feel like there's contradictory information. In one sense, you're stating that this entity has increased their rates because of cost of claims and administration costs. At the same token, you state that it's important to have this program in place to decrease our workers' compensation costs. So I would like more information about the claims. Have they gone up? And I would also like more information as to why we have not seen just a more competitive bidding history and process with this agreement.
Okay, so understanding the concerns of this commission regarding that particular situation, prior to the RFP going out, we did actually reach out to 6 additional vendors to get them to, bid on this. And unfortunately, the 6 of them decided not to do that. And so really the only bid that we had to consider for this program was the one that was submitted by VSP.
Now, let me play devil's advocate in what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that many of these entities probably don't even want to waste their time putting in a proposal knowing that it's probably going to go to this Vision Service Plan since they basically have had a locked-in agreement with DWP.
Okay, well, I can't comment on what their perception is as it relates to their opportunities to actually get the contract, but I can tell you that with all RFP processes here, we send it out. We do not indicate to any of the potential bidders who specifically has the current contract, how long they've had that contract. We don't provide that information to them. We did try this time around specifically because we knew this was going to be an issue of concern to reach out to as many additional vendors as possible to get them to go ahead and submit a bid so that we could actually have the opportunity to consider someone other than the current vendor. Okay, unfortunately, they did not. So what we're stuck with right now is specifically the only vendor who did provide a bid to us.
And would you speak to the increase in rate due to the cost of claims going up? Would you give me information how high have the claims differed over the years?
You want to comment on that?
Well, the participation rate has ranged between 700 and 800. In 2014, it was 752 employees participated. The rates, when they do, like from the last RFP, were locked in for 3 years. So the rates that we see today are rates, they hadn't had any rate increase from the 3 years prior contract. So that it's a 10% increase in the per employee per month rate.
But it specifically states that another the main reason was that the cost of claims has increased.
Right, I think just cost of living, and and the cost of goods. So over the 3 years since the last contract, the last RFP was 3 years ago. So that rate was static for the 3 years. So this proposal that we're going forward with is going to lock in the rate for 3 years as well. So it's a 10% increase, and it's covered basically for 10 years, for 6 years, the last 6 years.
Okay, now, I understand the need for increases in the cost of living, but I still feel like my questions about the claims aren't being addressed.
What is it specifically said? Cost of claims?
But that being said, we can move on.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Is there a motion? I move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
So Barbara, you'll record. Commissioner Noonan voting no, everybody else voting no. Thank you. Okay, that completes the consent calendar. We move to the regular agenda. First item is item 21, resolution approving the proposed plan amendments to the Water and Power Employees Retirement Plan to change the regular interest rate, the mortality table, and interest rate used in the calculation of retirement allowances and conversion to optional benefits amounts. Now, I understand we have somebody who's been on hold who I think wants to speak on this. Should we call that person? What's the process here?
John, are you available? John Monroe is our plans actuary, and he is available.
Oh, okay. So he's here as a resource.
Yes.
I see. Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and present this?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Linda Lee, and I'm from the Retirement Plan Office. With me is our Marie McTeague, who is our Deputy City Attorney who advises us plan on legal matters. Also with us is on the phone, as I said, John Monroe. He's the Vice President of Segal Consultant, and he is required under the law.
Yeah, this is John Monroe from Segal Company.
Okay. He apparently his cell phone dropped, but John, we're just beginning this item.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Presented before your Honorable Board is a resolution to approve amendments to 4 sections of the plan. These amendments, if approved, will save the Department an estimated $16.3 million annually. On June 26, 2013, Segal presented the plan's experience study for the period from 2009 through 2012. At that meeting, at its meeting on April 9, 2014, the Retirement Board approved the recommendations contained in that report for use in the annual valuations. These amendments, if approved, will align the factors in the plan with those recommendations. If you turn to page 2 of the board report, in the background section, on item number 1, changing the regular interest rate, the annual valuation assumes a return on assets of 7.5% per year. However, member accounts are credited at 7.75%. The difference between these two factors results in a cost to the department, and by aligning them, we will decrease the department contribution by $4.1 million annually. On page 3, section number 2, changing the mortality table and interest rate used in the calculation of retirement allowances. The annual valuation uses the RP 2000 combined healthy mortality table with adjustments and an interest rate of 7.5%, while member accounts are converted to annuities at retirement using the 1983 group mortality table with no setback and an interest rate of 8%. Because the life expectancy in the 1983 table is shorter and the interest rate is higher, the conversion to an annuity produces a higher annuity amount. Aligning these factors will decrease the department contribution by $12.2 million annually. And finally, the third item on here, changing the mortality table and the interest rate used to convert to optional benefits amount. Members may elect from several options at retirement to provide a lifetime continuance to a named survivor. The conversion to these optional benefit amounts will reduce the monthly amount payable to the member during his or her lifetime. This conversion, like the retirement calculation, uses the same table as described previously. Because the life expectancy in the 1983 table is shorter, but the interest rate is higher, the effect on the conversion to an optional benefit amount is mixed. There is no immediate effect on the department by changing this factor. The plan amendment process is a 3-step process. In step 1, the Retirement Board approved to recommend the plan amendments to this board for approval. This step was completed on May 13, 2015. In step 2, the plan amendment are presented before this board for consideration. If this board approves the attached resolution, you will be approving the plan amendments. In step 3, if the plan amendments are approved, the retirement plan manager will transmit the information to the retirement board to amend the plan. This will complete the plan amendment process. Under state law and city charter, prior to the adoption of any changes to benefit, the plan's actuary must complete a cost study. The cost study is included here at the end of this report. State law further requires that the study be made public at a public meeting at least 2 weeks prior to the adoption of any changes. The study was presented to the retirement board at its meeting on May 13 and has been posted on the retirement website since that meeting. Finally, state law requires that the actuary be present to provide information at the public meeting where adoption of the benefit change is considered. As previously mentioned, John Monroe from Siegel Consulting is on the line and available to answer any questions. Our city attorney has advised us that the plan has met its legal requirement should this board wish to act today and approve the plan amendments. However, if you would like to give the public additional time to review the cost study, since you only received the cost study a few days ago yourself, we'd be happy to bring the items back to the board at your next meeting. Thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions, we're available to answer your questions.
Thank you very much. Do any commissioners have questions or comments?
I have a
Commissioner
comment.
Barad.
Yes, that I think the fact that we're decreasing the department's contribution by $16.3 million is a good thing. So I'm in favor of this.
Any other comments or questions? Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimously approved. Thank you very much. John, thank you for being available.
Thank you.
Item 22, amendment to schedule of charges for energy facilities effective fiscal year 15-16.
Ann Santilli, Financial Services. We have a short presentation to go along with this. We're going to hold that up.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Marvin Moon, Director of Power System Engineering. The board has a document that's approved by the board called the Rules Governing Water and Electric Service, and this sets the framework for what we allow customers to do and what the department allows with regards to setting up service for water and electric service. It also identifies the charges that the customers have to pay and what the department will pay for. One of the charges that is on this in the rules relates to overhead temporary service. Here's the picture of what we're talking about. Whenever someone builds a building, they normally require temporary service to run their tools and their compressors. And that tall, skinny pole is normally provided by a contractor, and the department goes out, attaches a service drop to the customer, sets a meter, establishes a service for them temporarily while the building's being built, and then comes back later and removes it all. The charge we have been charging for this for over 20 years has been $300, and we're proposing to raise it to $1,000. And this would be effective on July 1st. Now, what brought us to our attention was we noticed a number of the neighboring utilities were charging a lot more than we were, and we did a deep study on this, and we found that we were undercharging to the extent of what we're requesting. We do approximately 1,500 of these a year, and so we would actually result in a net increase of approximately $1 million to the department with this increase. And that's what we're proposing.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I think this is long overdue. I can tell you that a lot of those requests are for the neighborhood I live in the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council area, where McMansions have just were overrun. But thanks to the leadership of the council and the mayor, a temporary halt was placed on that through the interim control ordinance against McMansions, and I would hope that these developers that are making a lot of money, especially on these quick flippers, they be charged whatever the market rate is for this, because I think that it's long overdue. So I'm very supportive of this, and making sure that especially these temporary installations we recover our full costs in going through that and anything associated with these, especially transient developments.
I appreciate that. And yes, this will recover our costs.
So do you want to increase it, Bill?
normally on the other side, but when it comes to maintaining the integrity and the preserving neighborhoods, I'm definitely more on making sure that the people that are coming in to make changes are paying for what they get. So,
understood.
Other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you have unanimous approval on this one. Thank you. We move to item 23, which is natural gas risk management retail natural gas volume and expense budget for fiscal years 15-16 through 24-25.
And we have a short presentation on this one as well.
Good afternoon, President Levine and Commissioners. Neil Guglielmo with Budget, Rates, and Financial Planning. With me is Bill Engels from the Power System. What you have before you is something we prepare annually for your review that provides the gas volume, estimated gas volumes looking forward 10 years for natural gas and some expenditure data as well. Just to let you know, last month we came to you to approve the budget for the coming fiscal year. This was all contemplated then. This is consistent with your approval of the 15-16 budget. As I mentioned earlier, this information is updated annually, and that information is provided to you for your approval. This just shows the natural gas as a percentage or as a portion of our total fuel and purchase power budget. You can see there it's roughly $1.4 billion. Purchase power, $713 million. Natural gas is that 309, that wedge that's lifted out of there. Represents approximately 21% of the fuel and purchase power budget for fiscal year 15-16. And this is some information about the hedging program and its status. We have a recommended target hedge level of 50%. In 2014, we entered with roughly 28% of the natural gas requirements that were hedged. During the fiscal year 14-15, our current fiscal year, LADWP executed additional hedges that increased our position to approximately 50% for the natural gas requirements. And you can see forward 15-16 on the table there through the fiscal year 2021 and the target hedge levels, and then what's expected in terms of the fiscal gas, fiscal power, financials, and reserves. And we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Dr. Pickle?
I support this.
That's succinct and appreciated. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
After Dr. Pickle's succinct speech, you have unanimous approval.
Thank you very much.
Item 24, First Amendment to Agreement Number 47259-5 between the City of Los Angeles, acting by and through the LA Department of Water and Power, and Liner LLP, increasing the appropriation limit from $500,000 to $2,250,000 through June 14, 2017. Mr. Eskel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Eskel Solomon, Deputy City Attorney. I'm the Civil Litigation Group Supervisor. This is the continuance and addition to an existing contract with a liner firm with whom we are doing work on several litigations that I can discuss with you in closed session if necessary.
Questions or comments? Commissioner Barat.
Well, I don't want to get into anything that's part of closed session, obviously, but this is 4.5 times the amount of money.
Yes, Commissioner, let me speak to that. Okay. The original $500,000 was for a 3-year period for one case. So this additional amount is for a total of 5 cases for the remaining 3 years. So it is because we had the addition of those 4 cases, which we discussed, that this money is necessary. The original $500,000, because of the addition of those 4 cases, was drawn down at this point to the remaining $100,000, and so that I can continue to work with outside counsel, I need this additional amount.
It's a lot of money.
Other
The
questions?
addition
or
is
comments?
$750,000 for the 3 years.
Right. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second, those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Filed items, item 25, Financial Services Monthly Report for April.
Ann Santilli. I don't have any other additional comments. We continue to monitor water system net income for the fiscal year ended, but we expect it to improve by June 30th.
Thank you. Questions? Customer Accounts Receivable Reduction Plan Update, 26A.
Yes, as we've mentioned in the past, we'll bring you monthly updates so that you can see how we're moving on our accounts receivable and our efforts to reduce the balances. You know that the AR has gone up since we had the conversion. Wait times were long, but now that they've come down, we've escalated our collection efforts, and we continue to balance those collection activities with our phone wait times. But the overall result is good. AR accounts receivable levels have decreased significantly. This is that page where we show you where we are now on our metrics and really show those 2 items in red, which are unbilled accounts over 120 days or accounts receivable greater than 60 days to show those are the areas of focus that we continue to work on, because most of our other KPIs are at reasonable levels. These are the 2 that remain that we really are focusing on bringing down to a lower target level. So on active accounts, where we are now, we again bill over $5 billion a year. There's about 1.6 million customers. Each of those bills have multiple services. So we have about 4 million services. And as of the end of May, our accounts over 60 days were about 4.6% of annual billings. The goal is 2.7%, but what I can tell you is last month, that was 5.1% of annual billings. So we.
What do you mean 4 million services for 1.6 million customers?
So your bill will have a power service, a water service,
I
a
see.
sanitation.
Never mind.
No problem. We have reduced in the last month about 0.5% of our annual billings, moving towards that 2.7% goal. And since January, accounts receivable over 60 days are down by over $100 million. And so these efforts are working. You know, we continue to ramp up so that we can collect these monies for services that have already been used. I'm increasing staff across the board. 53 phone agents were added in April. They are all completely trained and on the floor. As of just a few weeks ago, a few days ago actually, we started another 60 new agents yesterday, and we'll be looking at starting more in July. So we moved the threshold down, so every month we move the threshold down a little bit. Commercial collections has been at 250 in 19 days, which is our standard at this point for commercial. And residential threshold, it was 900, and then last month it was 750. This month it's 350 in 60 days, and we'll keep lowering that systematically through July till we get to $250 in 19 days. But we do balance that with the phone wait times. If it looks like the phone wait times are increasing, we can push off dropping that threshold a few weeks. But we do, with these unpaid accounts, push them through the severance activity, and in May, 15,000 customers over that threshold received notices that their services would be disconnected unless they called us and made some sort of arrangements to pay their bill. This lists all of those individuals and everybody who's been hired. The key issue, I think, is 10 to 15,000 phone calls a week are for customers calling us wanting to discuss activities related to their account and our collections and setting up payment arrangements or asking additional questions. And that we'll be hiring another 350 staff over the next 6 months to focus on this. But what's important there is through attrition, these employees retire or start looking to promote through the organization. They're very qualified employees. So attrition keeps that number going back down unless we are constantly focusing on it. And this kind of shows you in a good way. The red line is actually today, but in a few more days it'll move over to the other quarter, because just to the right of that line is the 1st of July. But it shows us ramping up. You'll see where it says projected, which is where we'll hire that additional 350, but you start seeing it immediately the next quarter starting to go back down as attrition works through those. So if we do kind of surge our hiring, it only takes a year or two to get back to our standard levels. So we're able to really monitor our staffing levels versus our collection activities. Most customers pay their outstanding balance through payment plans. They're up by 34% for the past 3 months over the previous months. We have about 53,000 customers on payment plans. Sounds like a lot, and it is, but it's still only 1/3% of our customers. Over 34,000 customer payment plans were established in May. What's really important there is about 2/3 of them do call through and go through our phone system, but about 1/3 of them, a little over 1/3, go onto our website and set them up themselves or onto our phone system. So if you want to set it up without going through an agent, you absolutely can. 25,000 customers completed their plans over the last 3 months, and we'll work with customers on payment plans to make sure they can afford to pay those outstanding balances. Here's the amounts going down since January, where you could see it was over $350 million. Right now, it's just over $250 million, and you could see it going down. As we pursue smaller accounts that are lower, $350 versus $900, you see that the impact starts slowing down a little bit, because between January and now, they were the highest dollar accounts. But we still focus on a lot more accounts at lower dollar values, and should meet that goal in about March of next year. So we're looking at those accounts over 90 days going down by about $100 million, and we'll keep moving towards where we are. We do experience phone calls at higher levels. You get those calls, council gets the calls, the mayor gets those calls. Our unified response to any customer that calls is to please call 1-800-DIAL-DWP, and we'll work with them to create a payment plan. We do have some inactive accounts. We've talked about this before, that we haven't sent to collections. We want to make the first effort to collect those ourselves. We are starting those in July with some of the largest accounts, and we'll find out how that impacts our call center as we start collecting or attempting to collect those accounts for customers who've closed their service and moved out of the LADWP service territory. So we're starting that. If they don't pay, we'll send it to a collection agency. And that shows it starting in July and then ramping down over the next 9 months or so. Our efforts are to continue to maintain our key performance indicators at acceptable levels, complete working on the system challenges, which are really focused right now on accounts receivable, the write-off, and billings, and continue through the process and expand some of our customer service options. Any of the write-offs, we've talked again about this. I was looking, if we essentially didn't collect almost any of those inactive accounts, we would be looking at an impact to a customer bill if we never collected that money, had to write it off, of about 10 to 20 cents a month on a water and power combined bill for residential customers. So that's kind of here's what the range of it is. We have no idea what it's going to be, because we have to continue to collect those accounts, but that's kind of a what if to show you that the impact to customers is very low. There is a new mayor's dashboard. Most of you may have seen. I know you can't read all there on the left, but we do look at like call wait times and the accounts outstanding and the call wait times on Mondays versus the rest of the week. People who've enrolled in paperless billing, because that's important. How much is in accounts receivable? I will just make a little statement about the call wait times are worse on the Mondays, and they're worse on the first of the month. That's when they hit us the most. And we're looking out to July, and July 1st is a Wednesday. but spillover means that the second and third will also be busy days. And the third is a holiday, so we asked all the employees, would you consider working that day? And we've literally got over 150 employees who committed to say, you know what, I'd like to come in, help balance out those call volumes. So because if they know if we're not open on that Friday, Monday will be just phenomenal with a number of calls. So really appreciate the staff's dedication to say, you know what, it's something we need. We'll come in on Friday, work the holiday. We know we'll still get phone calls. If we don't have as many phone calls, there's tons of billing, those outstanding bills that we can work on. So there's tons of work for them to do. And I really appreciate the staff stepping up and doing that. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on this. I do have another portion of the presentation to talk about some meter issues.
Well, I want to thank you for taking this over and compliment you on your initial results. This is critically important, and it sounds like we may be able to see some light at the end of the tunnel, and some of that's beginning. Could you just provide a brief summary of the training that these people receive? One of the problems has been in the way a lot of this has been handled with the people who had been on the phone, and hopefully the training has sensitized the call operators to do a little better job than they were doing.
Sure, and I'd really like to credit Sharon Grove, who you all know, who's done a really great job with looking at our training programs. Our training programs for a customer service rep is about 12 weeks. And we start even in the hiring process by going through kind of an interactive, these are new procedures, interactive process that's kind of mock phone calls, so that we can see right away as we're interviewing someone, how do you handle a phone call? What's your instinctive reaction to someone on the other end of the phone that's not happy or that is happy, those kind of things. Then they come in, we start going through, here's our system, here's how it works, here's some simple phone calls, and turn-ons and turn-offs, initiating service or disconnecting service are basically the easiest. So we train them for 4 weeks, then we put them on the phones every Monday. So they come help us on those heavy call days. We've got people who can monitor the phone calls and tell them, hey, here's where you did great, here's some areas you can look at. They go through training on the Tuesday through the Friday for another 8 weeks. And again, a lot of things sound like it should be pretty easy, but you can get some real, as you learn more, you can get real hairy accounts that just, I'm moving and someone's staying here and I'm going here and I want to pay this and I've got this outstanding balance, and it can just get very complicated. So that's the reason the training goes on for that amount of time. But so we've really noticed our newer reps they're doing very well. They're enjoying the training program, and we're now starting training for the customer service reps. Some opportunities that have been here for a number of years because they're like, hey, I'd love to go get some of that training. So as we now are kind of evening off, getting the new customer service reps hired, we're providing some training to our existing customer service reps and allowing them to go learn some of this stuff because they're excited about it.
And do we have a mechanism if a customer service rep is having a lot of trouble on the phone and can't figure it out, or it's something that's doesn't seem right? Does it get kicked up to a higher level?
They can escalate it, or the customer can escalate it to the next level. Yes.
Okay. Good. Commissioner Barad.
Yeah, this was brought up quite some time ago, and that's the hotline. If people have an emergency, not a billing emergency, but another, for instance, they don't have any electricity or they've got a flood. So now if somebody calls 311, which is the city line, and then they're transferred over to DWP, what is that procedure and who picks up and how long is that wait time?
Yeah, I do not know off the top of my head, but I'm going to call Sharon because she'll know that. I'll put you on the spot.
That's okay. No, that's a good question. The IVR, our mechanized phone system, it'll always take all the trouble calls to the very front of the queue. So even if it is on a Monday or the day after a 3-day weekend, those calls will always get the very next available rep. So the wait is usually within a minute or two.
So, okay, so if someone calls, let's say they have no electricity and they call in, how does the queue know to put them at the top?
They can either press 1, or they can say trouble, they can say water trouble, they can say electric trouble, and then it knows to go to the queue. So they actually identify this as a trouble call. They have to identify it as a trouble call. And so they can either press or say trouble.
Is that clear when someone calls in?
Yeah, we've tested with customer focus groups, and we don't really get a lot of complaints around that, but we'd be more than happy to look at it again. But we have tested it extensively, and we do not get complaints that customers aren't able to get through in an emergency.
Okay. I would request that you test that again.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure that that's working. Because we had a massive outage, I guess it was last week, and several neighborhoods were without any electricity. I'm sorry, I forget which day it was. And people were calling in and they were on hold for a long time and just finally gave up.
Right. What happens if there's a huge outage, not a one-off, there's a huge outage, then it can overrun the queue and people can wait. But what we do is when we find out that when we get verified that it is a specific area that's out, we will then go on our voice recorder and we'll record that we are aware. So even though folks are waiting, now they're hearing, oh wait, they know about it, and then they hang
because
up.
that's what didn't happen. There was no recording, and people were just
we don't put it on.
Didn't know what the problem was.
Right. No, that's valid. I'll double check that. If we don't get it validated, we don't want to put a recorder unless we're positive that there's an outage.
It was the day that there were some power lines fell across.
Okay.
Do you remember, David, what that was?
I don't remember the date, but I remember there was a balloon, Mylar balloon, caused a whole bunch of them.
I don't know if it was balloons, but there were some power lines that fell, and it just affected electricity in a wide area in the San Fernando Valley, and people didn't know what it was.
Okay, I will definitely follow up on that one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Other questions on this item?
I just wanted to make one comment. I'm glad to see that the improvement is happening, and you feel like Sharon's been with us from the beginning. And I know that her Target experience, or wherever you came from corporate, is probably helping out. But I would just say that when these things arise on the emergencies, and I brought this up, Nextdoor is increasingly being used by neighborhoods to organize on social media, and it's paid attention to by moms and dads, especially for crime and safety reasons. And I would say, to the extent that these things happen, get it out to the neighborhood council, get it out to Nextdoor, and I think that we can work with you on that end of making sure that clear information is provided. But Nextdoor really has caught on if there's a police chopper overhead, then immediately, at least in my area, then that's broadcast on Nextdoor. So you know that there's not somebody in your backyard. It's maybe the neighborhood next to you, but you kind of have a better idea than listening to the police scanner or watching, getting text from LAPD. So I know that we're exploring trying to integrate with Nextdoor, but I think it's paid attention to, unlike Twitter, which is not necessarily something that everybody looks at every day.
Okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Other comments, questions?
I want to thank Dave. And Sharon. This is a big job and very, very important. And just thank you very much for keeping on top of this.
Ditto.
Thank you. So we have one more presentation on something you might start hearing about, which is our meters and the meter process. This is related to some of our outstanding bills. It's a subset, but it's been kind of elevated over the last couple of months as we've really focused on it. Getting a meter from the warehouse onto a truck to a premise, installed in that premise, assigned to an address, then assigned to a meter read, and eventually assigned to a bill, covers all those systems you see up there, and they all have to interface with each other, and that meter has to be tracked as an individual unique meter with a unique meter identifier through that entire process and be accurate in order to eventually create a bill. We had an older system, and in that older system there were a lot of manual processes, but because everybody knew that billing system and there weren't any other kind of errors occurring to the extent they are after this transition, the error rate was 38%, but it was being handled, and those might have been meter number mismatches, address mismatches. There was a lot of field visits to verify addresses. There were a number of manual issues occurring, but you didn't hear about them because there weren't all the other items going on as well. In the new system, there's a lot of increased controls. This is a system that's 40 years newer than the older one we have. So the meter has to be put into an inventory, which the older system didn't require. And then it's tracked through one system and automatically updated to another system. And if the meter and the address doesn't match, it kicks out. If the meter data, if there's a number incorrectly entered, it jumps out. If the service addresses, this is just a key part, if the service addresses don't exactly match, it kicks out and creates an error. And every time there's an error, it requires a manual review, and the bill can't go out until somebody works on that account. And you can see there would be the same address, a sample 123 North Main Street. And if there's north is an N or north is spelled out, those aren't going to match. So all four of those addresses, with all the employees and the people in the field or the people answering the phone, setting up service, they're having to work that if they don't enter the addresses perfectly. So we're going through a process to try and look at that perfect entry of the address, and I'll get to that in a moment. But again, every manual review causes delayed billing, but the average error rate has been cut in half since our old system. Those controls are good things to have, but still 1 out of 5 isn't matching up right away, requiring a manual process on top of all the other manual issues related to setting up payment arrangements and handling calls. And again, there's a number of different reasons. We're going through each of those, working towards those. We've established what's called a meter installation support group. So we've got people who are essentially out there working with anybody who's out setting meters that someone can call and say, hey, I've got an issue, can I just resolve it here while I'm in the field rather than it create a problem? So they're stopping the problem in the field through a phone call versus having it turn into an issue that has to be handled in the office and take a significant amount of time. Then we're also creating our own premise management group, which is essentially addresses. Now this sounds weird, well, you're creating addresses. Shouldn't those come from like the Department of Building and Safety? Well, yes, they do, but if you have the developer starts and he goes, I'm at 123 North Main Street, and we're going to have apartments 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then they get through the process and those apartments turn into A, B, C, and D, or unit 101, 102, or suite, that completely screws everything up. And all of those apartment addresses, if there's 300 of them, are all wrong based on our billing system versus the DBS system. So we're having to go through all that and create some new processes to make sure that we can reduce all of these meter errors that are still creeping through. And we've had a number of staff that are working towards that. And so we're finishing creating that premise management or that address group. We're looking at all the meter installations and exchanges and establishing guidelines. And removing all the discrepancies. But that is a portion of what's going on that's causing some bills to be delayed, and I just wanted you to be aware of that in case you hear of there's metering issues. This is what that is. So I don't expect anyone to be able to see that to any extent except to say that's representing what the meter goes through to make it work right.
That's terrifying.
And that's electric. There it is for water. So it's just really complicated. And I will tell you, this is not unique to LA. Every utility has this process that has to be made perfect, because if you don't make it perfect, you don't have a bill that you're sending out for services that are rendered in a timely manner. So be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Questions?
It's me again. Dave, is there any emphasis now on getting the meters to the condos or the apartments so that people are paying for their own water, therefore they would be appreciating it more and not wasting water?
That would be our desire in any way we could do that. What usually happens with apartments is the entire building's been plumbed in one way to be served off one meter, and to try and put specific meters in requires like the entire complex to be completely replumbed, which is cost prohibitive. There's some efforts to put in what are called sub-meters, or some meters that we don't bill on, but it can tell the apartment dweller, here's how much water you're using. And so then they could, the landlord can go start saying, you're using this much water by a sub-meter and you're using that much water. Because I'm in an apartment right now, and it's just a blanket amount each month divided by the number of tenants, and it doesn't tie usage to your bill. But there's these attempts, because that's just what we need to have.
I understand it's complicated to do, but there are people who just are using a lot of water, wasting a lot of water in condos and apartments, and I think if they don't pay for it, they don't appreciate it. What about the new buildings, the new developments that are going in? We've got apartments going in everywhere and condos. What about putting the meters when you're just first doing the infrastructure in a building? Is there an attempt to get individual meters in those buildings?
I could answer on power, and I'm going to turn it over to Marty to answer on water, but I know for power there are, with almost every new installation, every unit has its own power meter. I don't know if that's true with water.
One of the things, you're right, it's a big issue. One of the things that the city's looking at now with building and safety codes, and this is in response to the ED5 directed by the mayor, and that's to require individual metering per unit. So they're working through that. Obviously, whenever you do exchange like this, sometimes there's pushback from the building industry. There's a lot of costs involved with plumbing it differently, and so but it is being looked at now, and it's actually being looked at statewide also as far as state building standards go. And so the governor's got a team that's looking at it, and that's one of the things that's been discussed in the last week particularly. So there are efforts to change the future from what we have now. And then regarding the current apartments, as David said, that there's a look at these little sub-meters, and it could be meters per device or maybe a meter per unit, depends on how the setup goes. Some apartments have their own water heaters, some they share a common hot water, and so even something like that can be very difficult to meter. We saw a demonstration this past week from a group in Australia that's developing a meter that might serve such a purpose. But most of these products are in development, so we're waiting for something to emerge as kind of a standard we can rely on. But certainly it's a real concern and something that we want to get to. So we know that where apartment buildings are individually metered, the water use is very different than the master meter. So.
Right. I'm sure. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? I know that we are all very appreciative of your leadership and the work that you and your colleagues are doing. It looks like we're at the end of our agenda, and we didn't even need magic words from council because he provided them earlier. Right. So unless there are any other comments.
May I offer a brief comment?
You may.
I have something to hand out as a flyer. I'd like to announce publicly that on Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, we're celebrating the dedication of Headworks Reservoir. It's finally gotten backfilled enough that it's safe to go out there to have a formal dedication ceremony. It's one that replaces Silver Lake and Ivanhoe, so I have a flyer for you, but everyone, of course, is invited to attend that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, the meeting is adjourned.